by R.E. Vernade. The sun's a red ball in the oak, and all the grass is grey with mist and dew. A while ago, a blackbird spoke. He didn't know the world's askew, and yonder rifleman and I wait here behind the misty trees to shoot the first man that goes by, our rifles ready on our knees. He couldn't know that if we fail, the world may lie in chains for years, and England be a bygone tale, and right be wrong, and laughter tears. Strange that this bird sits there and sings, while we must only sit and plan, who are so much the higher things, the murder of our fellow man. But maybe God will cause to be, who brought forth sweetness from the strong, out of our discords, harmony, sweeter than that bird's song.
The Redeemer by Siegfried Sassoon. The rain sluiced down, the mire was deep. It was past 12 on a midwinter night, when peaceful folk lay in bed, snug asleep. There, with much work to do before the light, we lugged our clay-sucked boots as best we might along the trench. Sometimes a bullet sang, and droning shells burst with a hollow bang. We were soaked, chilled, wretched, every one. Darkness, the distant wink of a huge gun. I turned in the black ditch, loathing the storm. A rocket fizzed and burned with blanching flare, and lit the face of what had been a form floundering in murk. He stood before me there. I say that he was Christ, stiff in the glare, leaning forward from his burdening task, with both arms supporting. His eyes on mine stared from a woeful head that seemed to mask horror and pain of hell's unholy shine. No thorny crown, only a woolen cap he wore. An English soldier, white and strong, who loved his time like any simple chap. Good days of work, of sport and homely song. Now he had learned that the nights were very long, with dawn a watching of a windowed sky. But to the end, he would endure, unjudging, he would endure horror and pain, not uncontent to die, that Lancaster on Loon may stand secure. He faced me, reeling in his weariness, shouldering his load of planks so hard to bear. I think he was Christ, brought to bless all groping things with freedom bright as air, and with his mercy washed and made them fair. Then the flame sank, and all grew dark as pitch. As we began to struggle along the ditch, someone flung his burden in the muck, mumbling, "Oh, Christ Almighty, now I'm stuck."
They were summoned from the hillside. The last line of this next poem translates as, "It is sweet and fitting to die for one's country." Dulce et decorum est by Wilfred Owen. Bent double like old beggars under sacks. Knock-kneed, coughing like hags, we cursed through sludge, till on the haunting flares we turned our backs, and toward our distant rest began to trudge. Men marched asleep. Many had lost their boots, but limped on blood-shod. All went lame, all blind, drunk with fatigue, deaf even to the hoots of gas shells dropping softly behind. Gas, gas, quick boys, an ecstasy of fumbling, fitting the clumsy helmets just in time. But someone still was yelling out and stumbling and floundering like a man in fire or lime. Dim, through the misty panes and thick green light, as under a green sea, I saw him drowning. In all my dreams, before my helpless sight, he plunges at me, guttering, choking, drowning. If in some smothering dreams you too could pace behind the wagon that we flung him in, and watch the white eyes writhing in his hanging face like a devil sick of sin. If you could hear with every jolt the blood come gargling from the froth-corrupted lungs, obscene as cancer, bitter as the cud of vile, incurable sores on innocent tongues, my friend, you would not tell with such high zest, two children ardent for some desperate glory, that old lie. Dulce et decorum est, pro patria mori.
Do you know what scares me? It ain't the Germans. Never really seen a German up close. It's hard to get all bunched up about someone you've never seen. Shoot, don't tell anyone I said that. I'm supposed to hate them. Well, suppose I do. I've heard they've done some terrible things. And I ain't frightened of getting shot either. Way I see it, it's either going to happen or it ain't. I do my job right, maybe I won't get shot. Some crowd does his right, maybe I do. And I'm not frightened of the trenches, though a lot of people have died in them. There's a lot of people in those trenches, Charlie. They just leave them where they fall. It ain't right. They should be buried proper like. I heard someone drowned in those trenches. It rains a lot in France. Glad I don't live here all the time. Guys are always griping about the mud. It comes up to your knees. Way I see it, it's no different from wrestling a pig. Except it smells a lot worse. Nah. Do you know what really frightens me? It's the rats. They're huge. They're everywhere. They run over your feet, up your leg. They'd run over your face if you were lying down. You think our barn rats are big? Our barn rats have got nothing on these French rats. They would eat our barn rats for breakfast. In fact, they'd eat our barn rats for breakfast with one paw tied behind their back. They're everywhere. They're huge and they eat anything. They'd eat the eyes out of your face if you weren't using them. That's why I don't sleep in the trenches. I don't want to wake up with some huge rat on my face. eating my eyes. I need my eyes. Ugh. Rats.
During late August 1914, the German army had advanced on a wide front, right into the heart of Belgium and France. Although the Belgians, French and British put up a stout defence, it was principally against the British that the heaviest enemy attacks were being launched. British troops were greatly outnumbered. Serious defeat looked inevitable, as practically no reserve forces were available. Back home, churches had been crowded with the British people who had been called to a national day of prayer. A number of remarkable incidents occurred in the following weeks, which allowed the British Army to withdraw to comparative safety. Here are two of them. The first was written by two British officers. The British expected annihilation, as we were almost helpless, when, to our amazement, the Germans stood like dazed men, never so much as touched their guns nor stirred till we had turned round and escaped by some crossroads. One man said he saw a troop of angels between us and the enemy. He has been a changed man ever since. Another man was asked if he had heard the wonderful stories of angels. He said he had seen them himself. When he and his company were retreating, they heard the German cavalry tearing after them. They saw a place where they thought a stand might be made, with sure hope of safety. But before they could reach it, the German cavalry were upon them. They therefore turned round and faced the enemy, expecting nothing but instant death, when, to their wonder, they saw between them and the enemy a whole troop of angels. The German horses turned round, terrified, and regularly stampeded. The men tugged at their bridles, while the poor beasts tore away in every direction from our men. The second incident was a testimony of what Captain Cecil Whitewick Haywood, Staff Officer of the 1st Corps Intelligence, knew. When a detachment of British soldiers was retiring through Mons under very heavy gunfire, they knelt behind a hastily erected barricade and endeavoured to hold up the enemy advance. The firing on both sides was very intensive, and the air reverberated with deafening crashes of exploding shells. Suddenly, firing on both sides stopped dead, and a silence fell. Looking over their barrier, the astonished British saw 4 or 5 wonderful beings, much bigger than men between themselves and the Germans. They were white-robed and bareheaded, and seemed rather to float than stand. Their backs were towards the British, and they faced the Germans with outstretched arms and hands. The sun was shining brightly at the time. Next thing the British knew was that the Germans were retreating in great disorder.
Beaucourt Revisited by A.P. Herbert. I wandered up to Beaucourt. I took the river track and saw the lines we lived in before the Boche went back. The pieces now on cottage, the front are far ahead, the front of journey eastward, and only left the dead. And I thought, how long we lay there and watched across the wire as the guns roared round the valley and set the skies afire. There's homes now in Hamel and tents at the Fair Hotel. There's a camp in Suicide Corner where half the new men know not spirits. They only see the graves. I found the half-dug ditches that we fashioned for the fight. We lost a score of men then. Young James was killed that night. I saw the star shells staring, and I heard the bullets hail, but the new troops pass unheeding, for they've never heard the tale. I crossed the blood-red ribbon that once was no man's land. I saw a misty daybreak and a creeping minute hand. And here the lads went over, and there was Hamworth shot, and here was William lying, but the new men knew them not. And I said, there is still the river, and there the thick, stark trees, to treasure here our story, but there are only these. And from beneath the white wooden crosses, the dead men answered no. The new men know not vocal, but we are here. We know.
Christmas, 1914. Enemies festering in trenches, mired in sinking mud. So close to one another, they can smell each other's food. Shivering, exhausted, giving orders to shed villainous blood. In rare sleep they dream of home, missing those they love. In the midst of darkness, light. In the midst of bleakness, hope. A touch of heaven in the midst of hell. Germans adorning Christmas trees with flickering lights. Reach out the hand of friendship across the desolate divide. Astonished with glee, the British respond, glad for respite. And all relish their shared humanity that Christmas Eve night. In the midst of darkness, light. In the midst of bleakness, hope. A touch of heaven in the midst of hell. Then on that war-ravaged landscape, football united. The Germans took the victory by just one goal decided. It truly was a beautiful game, but this peace it couldn't abide. Until far too many had laid down their lives. As we recall that staggering Christmas truce 100 years on, all once more by the power of love in Christ the child born.
Let peace on earth, goodwill to all, prompt our actions and our thoughts. And thank Jesus and those courageous ones whose blood our peace has bought. In the midst of darkness, light. In the midst of bleakness, hope. A touch of heaven in the depths of hell.